What's up, guys? This is my 2011 Volkswagen GTI, and I'm going to be telling you guys why this made a great first car for me, why it still is a great first car, and why I think you might love it too. So this is the Mark 6 generation. I bought it with just under 70,000 miles on it. It now has closer to 100, and I'm going to be talking about some of the problems I've had with it, which, believe it or not, are very few. Some of the modifications I've done to it, and just overall how this car has treated me the last 3 years of having it. So the first thing that I love about this car is the reliability. Now, reliability and Volkswagen, sometimes there's a bad stigma. They don't tend to go together, but this car has treated me very well. Now, the biggest issue that I actually have with this car is the battery. It's not nearly as bad in the summer. Actually, it's not a problem at all in the summer, but in the winter when it gets cold out and if the car is sitting for a day or two, especially when I go to school, it's not the best. I'll have to bring like a battery pack to bring with me to hook up to the battery so that it powers the car to turn on. But that's a battery problem. I went cheap when I replaced the battery about a year and a half ago. And when I replaced it a year and a half ago, the car was about 10 years old and it was still on the stock battery from Volkswagen. So I think it's pretty good that it went 10 years without needing a new battery. And honestly, I might not even have this problem if I bought a more expensive battery. But I'm a college student, I don't have a lot of money, so I cheaped out and I'm suffering the consequences. But it's not that bad. I bring a battery pack with me. You know, the important thing is that I never have to worry about this car starting to get to work, to get wherever I need to go. All I need to remember sometimes is in the winter, bring a battery pack with me, and that's the end of that. Now, believe it or not, one of the only bad issues that I've had with this car, and it's not even terrible, was the heater core went bad. So my first winter having the car, there was very little heat. It would take a long time to heat up, and it wouldn't even really get that warm, to the point where I would always have to wear a decently heavy coat in the winter inside my car. Now, the nice thing about that is, if you've ever heard before, replacing a heater core can be a pain in the ass. Replacing it on this car is actually, I don't want to say easy, but it's a lot easier than other cars. Most cars you have to rip out like the entire front dash, but in this car it's actually located right behind these panels here. So on other cars where it might take like 10 to 12 hours at a dealership or a mechanic to get it out and replaced, it took me about 3 to 4 hours in my driveway with very little mechanical experience. And the last thing that went wrong in my car were actually the window switches. So this car comes with auto up-down windows, and as you can see, the auto down works completely fine. However, the auto up has stopped working. Now, I had the same issue on my driver's side door, but I've actually replaced these. So as you can see, the auto up works totally fine on this side. And the auto up actually works with this switch on that window. However, I haven't gotten around to replacing that switch yet, so that one is still broken. And basically what happens is there's a tiny crack on the window switch that doesn't allow it to press all the way down on one part of it when you're pulling up on it, so the auto up doesn't work. But it's an easy fix. You take the door panel off, replace it. It takes about maybe 20-30 minutes. It's not bad. And that's about it for the issues on this car. You know, almost 3 full years of ownership and only 3 issues with this car. I really can't complain. With regular maintenance, oil changes every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, depending on how much highway driving I'm doing or around town driving. Now, obviously, there's regular maintenance that comes with it, so I had to do oil changes, I had to do brakes one time. I did the transmission fluid change once as well, which I'm actually due for pretty soon. But that's stuff you're gonna have to do with any car. So, overall, it's a very reliable car, even at almost 100,000 miles. As long as you look into the prior maintenance before you buy it. I checked the Carfax in this car and made sure that it had proper maintenance from the previous owner. The one downside to this, of course, is because it's a German car, parts are expensive. So if and when things do go wrong, the parts are going to be a lot more expensive than, say, if you had a Japanese car or anything American made. Now, the other thing that's just fantastic about this car is that it is so much fun to drive, even when it's totally stock. Now, I have a catback exhaust and a cold air intake, but I have not tuned this car. It is on stock power, maybe a couple extra horsepower from the catback and the intake, but honestly, because it's so old, it's probably just regains the horsepower that it's lost over the years. So figure around 200 horsepower, which is not that much. It is more than enough to have some fun with this car. Plenty of passing power on the highway. If you need to get around someone, step on it. You can easily get around anyone. Sometimes I do wish it had a little more power, but you can always tune it. I just haven't done it because I haven't gotten around to it, and quite honestly, I don't see myself having this car long enough to invest in that. However, the power isn't where this car shines. It shines in the handling. This thing is so much fun to drive because of how well it handles. Taking corners is tons of fun, and at higher speeds, this car is so stable. I've gotten pulled over once before for going about 85, and I thought I was going about 15 or 20 under that, and I didn't even realize. And that could be considered a pro and a con because it feels stable, but it's very easy to speed. And if you have the funds to tune this and throw it on some coilovers and get a couple extra upgrades going, this car is known of being capable of handling well over 400 wheel horsepower and having its only limiting factor, the front wheel drive, which is not great in terms of launching. You lose a lot of grip. All in all, it's a very fun car to drive, whether you're buying stock or you're planning to do upgrades. You're gonna have a smile on your face no matter what. And the next thing I love about this car is the community behind it. Now, there's a lot of GTI owners. There's plenty of people you can talk to online on forums if you have questions, whether it's modifying or repairing or just asking, stupid questions. There's tons of people out there. Most of the questions you have about this car are probably answered online somewhere. And the other thing with that is there's a lot of options for modifications and upgrading, as I kind of mentioned before. Now, I turned on the headlights and the turn signals to show you. These are aftermarket headlights. I also have some aftermarket wheels. As I said, I have the intake and the exhaust. I also have aftermarket taillights that also have the sequential turn signals. Completely changes the look of the car. These are 18 by 8.5 wheels, and these are about an inch wider than the ones that came stock on the car. They have absolutely no rubbing when turning. Every once in a while, they will scrape up against the fenders when I go over big bumps, because as you can see, they slightly poke in the front. I haven't gotten around to rolling my fenders, so they do scrape, and it is actually showing on the tires. There's a nice little mark that goes all the way around the tire from scraping up against the fender. But again, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's tons of things you can do with this car. If you're watching this video, I would assume that you've already looked into some modifications and you already kind of know about all the possibilities of what you can do with this car. Now, just a couple of other things that I want to mention before I wrap up this video. The interior is super nice and comfortable. It's no shock to anyone that this is a small car, but Volkswagen does a very good job at making the inside somewhat spacious, but it's more how they use the space in this small car. The steering wheel is super nice. You get a center console, a little bit of storage in here. This is aftermarket. I can make a separate video about how I put new speakers and this aftermarket stereo in, but if this is a comfortable seat to sit in, you don't feel like you're squished at all. I have taken very long road trips in this car, easily over 5 hours. I live in northern New Jersey and I go to school up in Vermont. It's about a 5-hour drive there, and I'm very comfortable in this car for that whole drive. There are back seats. This is a 4-door, so the back seats are a little bit bigger. And obviously the doors to get in. It's a lot easier than one of my friends who has a 2-door Golf. It's a bit difficult to get in and out of the back seats for that car. Having the extra doors in the back is very nice. This back seats, they are decently small. Road trips for people in the back aren't going to be nearly as comfortable as if you're in the front. Still very doable, but just keep that in mind if that's important to you. If that doesn't matter, you can just ignore that. But also just in general, Volkswagen did a very good job building this interior. Leather wrapped steering wheel is very nice considering this is what you're interacting with the most when you drive. The pedals are, I don't even know if they're metal or plastic, but they feel nice. They have some rubber on them, so they're nice and grippy. Even with, wet boots on, you're not really gonna slip on those pedals. I love the floor mount of the gas pedal. It's so much fun. If you've ever seen videos of the Lamborghini Huracan, it actually looks like the exact same pedal. I don't know if it's the same, but it certainly looks the same. Even the gauges and the very, very tiny info screen which is actually a bit laggy and annoying, but you know, I just kind of leave my speed on there, which is pretty slow, but it's not a big deal. You have your speedometer, you have your RPMs, all the important stuff is there. Just overall, the interior is very comfortable. It's a nice place to be. I always look forward to getting into it, whether I'm going on a road trip or just my daily commute to work. And the last thing I'm going to talk about to finish up this video is the gas mileage. On the highway, driving nicely, I can get just over 30 miles per gallon, which is great for a car that is this much fun to drive. Around town, it's closer to the mid to low 20s, which isn't the best, but it's also not the worst. I love the 2-liter turbo engine in this car. It has good power, and at the same time, I still get great gas mileage. Until you step on it. If you're driving like a maniac, gas mileage is going to suck. I would know. So I started to drive a little bit slower and, you know, not as much unnecessary acceleration, and gas mileage is really good on this car. And that's gonna wrap up this video. I believe I went over most of the important things that come to mind whenever I've been asked, you know, how do I like this car? You know, reliability is great. Again, having this car almost 3 years, I've put close to 30,000 miles on it. This car has treated me very well, partly because I have treated it very well. It will do the same thing for you guys. Again, if you're buying one of these, do check the prior maintenance history. Make sure that it has gotten regular oil changes, and if it's higher mileage, make sure it's got some of the other big ticket items taken care of. I can make another video on some of the issues that I'm kind of worried about this car potentially having now that it's hitting the 100,000 mile mark. If you're interested in that, please leave a comment, let me know. If there's anything that I didn't talk about in this video that you're curious about, please leave a comment, ask questions. I'll answer them the best I can. If it needs a video, I'll make another video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.